Grace, if you text me again whether or not you can have Bella Beans this weekend, the answer is no. Hey guys, I'm Kristin, also known as Voolenvine, here on my YouTube channel, on Ravelry, on Instagram, where I'm most active when it comes to social media, and pretty much everywhere else on the web. And as always, I'm so happy that you're taking some time out of your day to chat about all the knitting, all the sewing, all the making, or whatever crafty rabbit hole I happen to be diving down this week. And yeah, I am back with a regular episode for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to last week's Edinburgh Yarn Festival haul. That was quite the haul, pretty much the biggest haul I think I've ever come back from a festival with. So, you know, yeah. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun sharing it with you. I really can't wait to see what those skeins will grow up to become. But first and foremost, I really just want to clear off some projects off of my needles first before I indulge in those projects, those upcoming projects. But anyway, I'll get into a little bit of that later. But yeah, just a couple of announcements. I'm trying to think, are there really any announcements? Yeah, if you are curious about my adventures at Edinburgh Yarn Festival or my trip to Paris, which I'll talk about, I'll sprinkle in a little bit of, you know, what happened in Paris throughout the episode. But yeah, if you are curious about, you know, any photos or things that I've taken, hop on over to my Instagram feed. I actually created some Instagram story highlights where I just compiled some Instagram stories, you know, related to EYF and Paris. So if you are curious, hop on over there, check those out. Those were a lot of fun to put together. So, you know, some really fun highlights for you over there. And I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, it's been a really crazy week since I got back. You think, you know, after getting back from vacation, you're all relaxed and calm, but no, we got back and dove right into taxes. We unfortunately waited to the last minute to get our taxes done. Such is life. So that was first and foremost when we got back, and then I had a dentist appointment earlier this week, so having 4 cavities drilled into my mouth. Always a good time, and yeah, just still catching up with a lot of work because I missed 2 weeks. So yeah, it has not been the most relaxing time since I've gotten back from my trip. I have a fun show for you guys this week, do not fret. I have a lot to catch you up on, as I do when I miss a couple of weeks of recording a podcast. So we've got some finished objects, works in progress, some sewing plans, some sewing finished objects. It's going to be, I feel like, a bumper episode this week. So I hope you guys are down for that. But before I get into all of that awesomeness, just a quick word from my wonderful sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes in design, business, tech, and more, even sewing and the fiber arts. As you probably know, I love learning new things when it comes to knitting, sewing, photography, or whatever crafty rabbit hole I happen to be diving down, which is why I'm all about binge watching classes on Skillshare. And because I know you love learning new things too, I partnered up with Skillshare, and they are offering you, my viewers, 2 months free to try their platform. So give Skillshare a go and learn something new. Just click the link in the description box below and enter the code at checkout. Enjoy, and thanks Skillshare. And welcome back. As promised, I have a finished object this week, and it's not probably something, if you don't follow my Instagram feed, you are probably not in the loop about what I cast on right before EYF. So the plan was I was going to go to EYF, Edinburgh Yarn Festival, for 3-4 days, and then hop on over to France, as you do, and meet up with my husband, because we really wanted to do a European vacation. It's been, I want to say, like 2 or 3 years since our last European vacation. We went to Italy last time, which was a blast. So this year we wanted to do something that we've both never done before. We've both never been to Paris, France before. So I figured, all right, if I'm going to already be in Europe and you don't want to deal with the yarny shenanigans, I'm going to go do that for a few days, and then why don't we just meet over in Paris? So that's what we did, and that was the plan. So you know, in lieu of not having his sweater finished, this is a project I feel like will be going on. His Rift pullover by Jared Flood that I'm knitting on intermittently. My mojo for that is just kind of at the wayside right now, so we shall not speak of that until I actually put more progress into it. The body is done. I just have to finish the upper portions and the sleeves, and anyway, because I didn't have his sweater finished, I decided to cast on a smaller project for him that I could work on while I was at EYF and then present to him when I met up with him as like, I made something for you while I was gone type of thing. So I figured that would be something fun to gift to him. So anyway, I cast on a Harlow hat by Andrea Mowry. This is a super simple, easy peasy. If you are familiar with knitting brioche, if you know how to knit brioche, this is super easy, mindless potato chip knitting. If you don't know how to knit brioche, you might need to learn how to knit brioche first before you can wrap your brain around how this is potato chippy. Totally understandable, but because I know how to knit brioche, this was just a breeze and completely conversational. It was perfect, the perfect project for, going to EYF, chatting with friends, being able to pick it up, put it down. Highly recommend this pattern. And yeah, it is done. And I was not done with it when he arrived in Paris. I didn't even this is not even blocked yet, but I did finish it 2 days later after he arrived, and he wore it and he loves it, and it definitely came in handy because he did bring a hat, but we were out one night and it got a little chilly, and I was like, but I brought your hat just in case, photo opportunity. And a photo opportunity did arise because it was, I want to say, a little past sunset, and we were walking on the Pont Neuf, which is a famous bridge in Paris, and we had a really beautiful view of the Seine River, and the sun had it was still like barely peeking its head, so we had that, like, all the lights on the river and the sun just poking its head over the horizon. It was very magical, very Van Gogh. If you can imagine. I'll pop a photo of it here. So I said, I'll let you wear the hat if you let me get some photos. So thankfully he was game for that and let me get a few shots of him. But yeah, again, super awesome pattern. Highly recommend it. The yarn that I used for this is Spin Cycle Dream State in, I believe it's their neutral toned colorway. I believe it's called Tarnation. I could be wrong. I'll pop it in the down bar. So that I used for believe it or not, this is the contrasting color. This is actually a reversible hat pattern, so you can flip it out. And Andrea Mowry gives you guidelines for making it, choosing your colors for the reversible side versus the other side, if that makes sense. And this side is Harrisville Shetland, which is a fingering weight yarn. So Dream State is their sport weight. So Spin Cycle Dream State is their sport weight base, and then Harrisville Shetland is their fingering weight in, if you could guess what color this is, it's black. No fancy schmancy name here. So yeah, it's really awesome. It's a really fun pattern and makes for a wonderful gift. So, and yeah, I just really love the gradient effect that happens with Spin Cycle yarns. So yeah, and this is all from Stash. So yeah, really, really pleased with the way it turned out. So yeah, I'm not gonna try this on because my hair is having a good day right now and I really don't want to mess it up. So if you can understand, I will of course post photos of this with Dennis wearing said hat. So yeah, that is my Harlow hat. All right, these are works in progress. And, aside from the Harlow hat, I did bring 2 extra projects with me to work on, which barely got any work done on, though I did get some plain knitting done for the most part. I want to say flying over, it was about a 5.5-hour flight to Dublin, so pretty much a ride to Cape Cod, if you can imagine that, and then another hour flight from Dublin to Edinburgh. So yeah, I got a good chunk of knitting time in there. And I worked on my Birds of a Feather shawl, another pattern by Andrea Mowry that I am making slow but steady progress on. I think which is the right side. Yeah, this is the right side. So yeah, we are at the royal we are at the decreasing portion, and I think that's on this side. So you're increasing and increasing, and then you get to a point where you start to decrease on one side and it creates kind of like this angled edge. So that's where I am with that, and I'm about to embark on the last lace bit of the shawl, and then it's all just pure stockinette decreasing from there. So I'm making quite a lot of progress on this. This is going to be a sample for my my yarn shop, my online yarn shop, I should say. If you are not familiar, I am the hand dyer behind Voolenvine yarns. And I'll talk a little bit about my shop update this week later in the episode. But yeah, I'm just kind of knitting this for myself and for, you know, photo eye candy for my website, if you can believe. There are a few mistakes in here. Why do we all point out our mistakes that are really not visible to the human eye unless you point them out? I have no idea, but I just feel the need to point out that I am not a perfect knitter. I make mistakes, and I'm at this stage in my life, I don't care if I make a mistake. If I'm already ahead, I'm not going to rip back if it's no big deal. So I'm trying to think where, like this part right here. What that is so amateur of me. That's like beginner Swiss cheese sock amateur mistake business right there. But am I gonna rip it out? No. Nope, not gonna do it. It's not gonna bother me, honestly. So when I'm done with this, if it, you know, starts to get to me, I can just fold it down and tack it down on the wrong side so I have a nice clean edge. But honestly, when I wear it, it's just gonna be all bunched up and everything, and no one's gonna see it. Nobody's gonna see it. And I'm trying to think if there are any other glaringly obvious mistakes. Yeah, no, there's a little fuzzball right there. What do you, I don't know what you want to call that, but that's just like extra fluff, or like I have no idea what it is. I'm not questioning it, and I'm not ripping back. But at the end of the day, when all is said and done, this is just, it's gonna be squished up, as I said, around my neck. No one's gonna know the difference. I am in love with this colorway. This is, again, my hand-dyed yarn, Voolenvine yarns, a combination of my Ghost lace base, which is a lace weight mohair silk blend, and then my Nouveau base, which is a single ply merino fingering weight yarn. And I have been getting a lot of requests for this colorway and yarn combination. It will be back in the shop. I'm hoping, I'm gonna try and dye some tomorrow so it can be in the shop this weekend. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, please do sign up for the newsletter. It'll give you all the details about what colorways, yarn bases will be in each shop update, because I do get a lot of emails asking if I'm gonna have this colorway, this base in the shop, and I figure instead of like responding to all individual emails, I'm just gonna have one newsletter to let you know what the dealio is with every shop update. So again, you can do that by going to my online shop, www.voolenvineyarns.com, and clicking the newsletter link at the top, and then entering your email, and you'll be automatically subscribed to said newsletter, and you'll be looped in. So, but yeah, I'm gonna do my best to have this yarn combination in the shop this Saturday. So yeah, anyway, what else do I want to say about this? Yeah, I love this project so much, and like, again, as I said, if I had to choose one colorway out of all of my colorways, I Am No Bird is my favorite colorway that I dye. It's inspired by Jane Eyre, one of my favorite books, my favorite novels by Charlotte Bronte, and yeah. Moving along, living in my Floof Hunter project bag that I purchased at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival from Yarnisty is another project that I brought along with me, and those are my Shell Cottage socks, a wonderful pattern by Helen Stewart, and this is the first installation of her Handmade Sock Society Part 2. And this is my second sock. So no second sock syndrome here. This got lots of love on the plane ride home, which was, it was about a 7.5. It was a longer flight going back than it was going. So a 7.5 hour flight. I was already done with the cuff, and I knit literally the whole leg on the plane ride back. In between watching, I feel like anytime Dennis and I fly anywhere, that's like, when we fly, that's our time to catch up on Oscar movies, like movies that were nominated for an Oscar. So on the way back, we watched, I believe, what was it? Oh, we watched A Star is Born, which was good. I don't know. I don't know. It just, the ending was just kind of want for me. It was very sad, but anyway, it just, I don't know. I felt kind of meh about it. We also watched Green Book, which was really, really good. I think that did win Best Picture. And then I forget what else I watched. I think that was it. I maybe watched some kind of British Bake Off. No. I think I forgot what else I watched. I think I kind of passed out and fell asleep after a while. But yeah, so it was really great to catch up on those movies and get some sock knitting done. Here's where I am with my second shell cottage sock. And I'm knitting this out of Ritual Dyes in her leather colorway, which obviously is a really lovely, semi-solid mauve. So yeah, that is where I am with that. And in case you're wondering, the first sock, see, I'm not lying. I do have a first sock. So that is done. And again, the only modifications I made was to the heel. Helen Stewart has a heel flap turn type of heel with an eye of partridge detail, and I just opted for my usual go-to fish lips kiss heel. It's easy, it's simple, and I have it memorized, so that's usually my go-to heel of choice. So yeah, those are my socks that I've been working on. Sock Knitting Mojo has not really made a comeback, but I'm glad I'm getting some progress done on these because it is a beautiful, simple, intuitive pattern. And I actually ran into Helen at EYF, so it was really great to catch up with her. Although briefly, it was really great getting to see her again and let her know how much these socks came in handy when I was not feeling well. If you recall, I came down with like a stomach flu a couple months ago, and when I finally had enough energy to knit, these were like, I just cast these on to make me feel better, and they did not disappoint. So anyway, Helen, if you're watching, it was so great seeing you, and thank you for designing such an amazing pattern, as always. So, okay, moving along, I think that is it for knitting this week. I'm going to move along to the sewing content of the episode. All right, as for sewing, as I mentioned, it's been quite some time since I've been able to sit down, sew, and play with my machine in the back. I have all these sewing plans, all these great ideas, and yeah, I really, really do miss it, and I cannot wait to get back to it this weekend. I do have several finished objects that I want to share with you. My coat that I shared with you the last time is finished. It is complete. It's over there on my mannequin. However, I think I'm going to wait for another episode to talk with you about that in detail because I feel like I've already talked at length and I want to keep this a rather succinct episode. So I'm going to hold off on that to another episode. But I am going to talk with you about the Lizzie skirt that I sewed, and I shared this on my Instagram feed. This was one of the patterns that Emily recommended that I sew. If you recall, we recorded an episode together a couple weeks ago where she went through my style pins on Pinterest and helped me choose patterns that would kind of reflect my style, things that I'm drawn to, and the Lizzie skirt was one of them. And I'll pop a photo of it here so you know what I'm talking about. This was a pattern that I kind of dismissed when I saw it. I really need to start looking past what the model is wearing for a specific pattern or the sample garment that the model is wearing, because when I first saw this pattern, it just kind of like flew under my radar. I just kind of dismissed it because number one, it was white eyelet lace, and I do not wear white at all. I never gravitate towards it, and even if I do wear it, I'm like, I cannot be this person. And also it has pleats, and again, I'm not a pleaty person, if that makes any sense. So she suggested, well, you could just, this is very similar to a pin on your Pinterest board. You could just replace the white with black lace, maybe. I mean, duh. So I don't know why I didn't realize that in the past. So I was like, a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, you are so right. And then another viewer suggested that instead of, if I'm not into pleats, I could just omit the pleats. Brilliant. And make gathers. So yeah, you're not going to be able to see the full, what I'm wearing. You're not going to be able to see the full length of it, but I will stand up nonetheless so you can see it in detail. I will try and stand back. But it's just a very simple waistband, and then, so it has a black overlay. This is black corded lace, and I will try and stand up. So it's kind of like a heavier lace, but I believe it's called corded lace because it has like these, if you look very closely, there are these kind of like cords that wrap around the embroidery on the lace. It's kind of weighty. It's a little stiff, a little toothy, if that makes sense. So it's a very, very dense lace, if that makes any sense. And then the underlining, not giving you guys a show, I promise, is this kind of polyester poplin. It's fine. It works as a lining. However, I wish I chose something a little bit more lightweight and a little more, I don't know, something a little bit more natural because, yeah, or just something, because I feel like this is a very special fabric. It's, you know, it's fancy, it's elegant, but then you have like this synthetic kind of cotton blend underneath, and it just kind of like is a kind of want effect. But honestly, it works, it does the job, and I love the effect that the dark charcoal gray has underneath the black. So it's everything and anything I could hope for in a finished garment. And then the back just has an invisible zipper, and then this mother of kind of like dark, smoky mother of pearl button from my stash that I've had. And it just came together really, really nicely. I'll pop some photos of the full skirt here. I posted about this on my Instagram feed, so you may have already seen these, but just, you know, for reference sake while I'm talking. So for the lining, I used French seams, which gave it a really nice kind of couture finish. And then for the lace overlay, I simply sewed a straight line and then serged the edges because the lace is so busy to begin with, you're not even going to see the serged edge on the underside. It blends in really nicely. And then also for the hem, because the hem was already scalloped and finished, I did not have to hem it at all, which was wonderful because I'm not a huge fan of hemming. So that was a bonus, but I did make sure that the scallops lined up together, so it looked like it was just a continuous scallop going all the way across. And the other nice professional touch that I added to it was I hand stitched the inside of the waistband to the lining and also the zipper sides to the lining to conceal any raw edges along the zipper tab. So yeah, I'm very proud of myself. I don't know, it just feels like a really professionally made garment. As simple as it is, it just has that kind of I don't know, special quality to it. So I'm really proud of myself for this make. Granted, it's not something that I can wear every day, although, you know, hey, why not? I don't know, I just have to figure out what I could pair it with that would make me feel comfortable wearing it every day. But it is a beautiful garment. Dennis is probably gonna have to take me out for a night out on the town, so I can get some use out of it. But yeah, I am really, really happy with the way it came out and highly recommend it. It's definitely a very versatile pattern. That you can certainly play around with different linings and overlays and different types of fabric, and again, you could have a lot of fun with it. So, but if you are wondering about the modifications that I made to it, when it came to replacing the pleats with gathers, I just simply cut out the pattern pieces as they were, but truing up the waistline where the pleats would have been, because when you have pleats, the pattern piece kind of has like a little zigzag going along the top. I just smoothed that out, and then I did omit the pockets by just cutting off the little tabs at the side of the pattern piece and just making a straight line. So no rocket science there. Pretty simple, straightforward alterations to the pattern, if that makes any sense. But yeah, again, as I mentioned in an earlier episode, I am working on a new sewing blog. So it's still in the works. I'm still putting some final touches on it. And I do have a couple of entries, but no details until it's done. So yeah, I'm just working on the overall look of it, and I'm excited to have a dedicated sewing blog finally. Yeah, as I mentioned in the past, I had a couple failure to launches with some blogs, but this one is going to be a dedicated sewing blog, and I cannot wait to let that out into the world for you guys. So I do have a couple of sewing projects planned. I don't know, obviously I'm not going to get to all of them this weekend, but just to give you an idea of what's on my radar. I actually ordered these this morning because if you are not familiar with République du Chiffon, they are a French independent pattern company, and pretty much all of their patterns, I want to say 75% of their patterns I am smitten with. Like, they just get my style. I don't know what it is, but everything I want to sew from that website. But a lot of their patterns are in French. I did sew one pattern completely in French, but it was a fairly easy pattern, and I used Google Translate. It all came together very well. So a couple of the patterns that I did order from them, one is the They are both in French now that I'm looking at it. They are both in French, but I have faith in myself that I can make it happen. But the first one is a new one called the Violette dress, and I'll pop a photo of it here. But as soon as I saw it, I'm just like, yes, I need that in my wardrobe immediately. It has everything, like the kind of like Dolman drop sleeve effect happening, and a long tiered skirt. Love it. And then there is the Audrey shirt, which is kind of like a vintage style. Again, it has lapels, which I don't normally gravitate towards, but the fact that there aren't buttons down the front, which I spoke about with Emily, she's like, I don't seem to have kind of like a masculine lean towards fashion where, you have, button down is typically, or she said it's like a very masculine detail, like shirts and everything, but this kind of has, I almost want to say like an Edwardian look to it, which ever having since gone to Paris and getting to see some of the art, like the Art Nouveau styles, and going to, I'm totally going to butcher this, but bear with me. I believe it's pronounced Puces de Saint Wan, and that translates as the Fleas of Saint Ouen. And it's this massive, massive flea market, if you can imagine, with, obviously flea market items, but primarily antiques, vintage items, and yeah, you name it. It just goes on, and it's like, if you are into that thing, it's a flea market junkie's dream, pretty much, if I could describe it as such. And then my friend Amy, she recommended that I go to this one section where they have all the Victorian, all the Edwardian antiques and dresses, and oh my gosh, I walked into this one shop. I don't even remember the name of it. They wouldn't even allow me to take photos inside, so unfortunately I can't share them with you, but they literally just had hanging on their racks these beautiful antique dresses from the Victorian times, from Edwardian times, just hanging there, and I literally, my mind was blown, and I felt like I was having a religious experience in this shop, just being able to touch these things, see them in person up close. And I literally took them off the hanger and just opened them up and looked at all the hand stitching on the inside, and it was like all the boning, and a lot of it had a lot of wear and tear, obviously. There were sweat stains on these things. You can tell that these dresses were handmade, well loved, and just so much detail going into them, and I was flipping out. Poor Dennis had to, I actually made him come back a second time because I needed one more look. So I considered purchasing one for myself, but I was like, I don't know, I just absorbed it and just took it all in, and just felt so incredibly grateful to be experiencing that right there and then. And yeah, I'll try and post a photo of the exterior, but that just like left me with like this feeling of, I don't know, like I wanted to research more about that time period, what went into the dressmaking, and even like replicating some of the stuff for myself, because it's just, I love all that stuff. It just excites me beyond, like, yeah, anyway, you can tell I'm getting excited and enthusiastic about this. So, as soon as I got home, I immediately created like a Pinterest board. I'm browsing online, like for photos of the interiors of all these antique dresses, and then started listening to fashion history podcasts, which I'll talk about at the end of the episode. But I did treat myself to some new books. This is the first book that I got. It's 19th Century Fashion in Detail. And as the name suggests, it literally takes you through a lot of period gowns and does like all the line drawings for you. Let me see. It shows you like the line drawings, and the pieces of all these historical things, dresses, and even some of the boning. It's just, you guys, this is my new porn, okay? I mean, look at that. I would love a gown with this type of detail on it. Yeah. It even talks about the construction of a bustle. You can see the line drawings on there, like the actual structure of it, the layout, and what it's comprised of. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about right there. Yeah. I can never get enough of this. Just like seeing the insides of how these bodices were made. Like you see all these boning channels there, the support grosgrain ribbon, and You guys, I'm in love. I'm in love. I will post a link to this book and the other stuff that I talk about in this episode in the description box below in case you want to pick up a copy for yourself or get it from your local library. And the other one that I got is Art Nouveau fashion because I am obsessed with Art Nouveau. It is my favorite art period of all time. Alphonse Mucha, Gustav Klimt are just some of the artists that Toulouse-Lautrec as well are just some of my favorite artists. And I was lucky enough to see some Toulouse-Lautrec paintings at some of the museums that we went to. But this basically gives you like a history of Art Nouveau and how fashion played into it. And if you're not familiar with Art Nouveau, just to give you an idea, this is by Alphonse Mucha, so just very feminine, very romantic and dreamy. And yeah, it just picks out, it just has like all these beautiful illustrations and photographs of actual Art Nouveau gowns and stuff. I'm trying to find one that's really, really pretty. I mean, stuff like this just makes my heart sing. Getting to see old photos and just dresses on display. It's just so pretty. It's so pretty, you guys. Anyway, new rabbit hole. So yeah, this is Art Nouveau fashion by Clare Rose. And again, I will post the links to them down below. But I've definitely fallen down a rabbit hole of learning as much as I can about late 19th century, early 20th century fashion. And yeah, I don't know, you might start to see a lot more sewing projects with that kind of flair to it. So, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so I believe that is sewing for this week. Oh, and I think until those other patterns arrive, I'm actually going to be, I think, sewing the Heidi day dress. So the Heidi day dress by Wearable Studio, and I believe it's a fairly new pattern, and it's actually free. So if you want to make it yourself, I'll pop a photo of it here. All you have to do is sign up for their newsletter, and they send you a free pattern. And it seems like a very simple pattern. I actually cut out all the pieces, and because they said that it's drafted for a B cup. If you're another size, you have to do a bust adjustment. So I am fairly new to bust adjustments. It's something that I need to work on, and I watched a really awesome tutorial that explained it. It's fairly new, and I wasn't able to come across it in previous times, I don't know, but I stumbled on it this week, and it is, the way she explains it is so clear and so concise, and it really drilled. Talk about drilling. Motorcycle guy's back. Oh, how I've missed thee. He went away. But anyway, yeah, it was such a great tutorial. She really spelled it out, drilled the point home, so to speak. And I was able to kind of do a small bust adjustment because, yeah, I'm an A cup. The pattern is drafted for a B cup. So I think, fingers crossed, it'll all turn out well. Again, I have to make a muslin. I'm gonna behave. I'm gonna do the right thing and make a muslin, just to see how it turned out. But yeah, that is my plan for this weekend. I don't know what fabric I'm gonna use yet. We will find out. But yeah, so I think that is it for sewing this week. So anyway, I'm gonna move along to the BLATHER segment, but just a heads up about my shop update again. I am having a shop update this Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. That is April 13th. So I hope you guys can make it. I will post a link to my shop update, to my online shop down below. And yeah, I hope you guys can make it. It's going to be a lot of strange brews this week. Emily is out of town, so it's me and the dye pots this week, 100%. So I decided I would just take the time to play around with some new colorway ideas and see what pops out of the dye pots. So I hope you guys are excited for that. And again, as I mentioned, I'm gonna do my best to have some more I Am No Bird in the bases that on my Ghost Lace and Nouveau bases, because I just got a new shipment of those bases in. So yeah, I hope you guys are around to check that out. All right, so without further ado, I am gonna dive into the BLATHER segment, a segment where I chat about what's been happening in my life, should you care to stick around. And for this week, I decided that I would share with you what sewing podcasts and YouTube channels I've been watching lately. So yeah, without further ado, you know, especially since I fell down this rabbit hole of, you know, historical sewing and the like. So these are a lot of those if you want to check that out. So the first one is Dressed. That is an audio podcast. I believe they're hosted by How Stuff Works. And basically they touch on a bunch of different historical aspects of fashion history. Each episode has a different theme. The very first episode is about the House of Worth, which was amazing. And then they even have the history of leopard print, which that's coming up next on my to listen list. So definitely check that one out. The next one is Fashion History with American Duchess. If you're not familiar, American Duchess is they're not independent. She designs a lot of historical reproduction patterns for Simplicity. So if you've seen some of their historical costumes on Simplicity, I believe American Duchess is responsible for designing some of those. But they have a really cool podcast where they interview people like experts and authors about, you know, certain famous points in fashion history and everything. So definitely check that out as well. And they're funny. They're really funny too. And then there's a lot of you have recommended some of these to me. So forgive me, I'm blanking on who exactly recommended these to me, but they are really wonderful, wonderful YouTube channels nonetheless. The first one is I remember who recommended this one to me. Redesign Your Clothes with Daniela Tabois. I'm totally butchering that last name. I apologize, but Grace of Babel's Traveling Yarns recommended this one to me, and she's amazing. She has a lot of great tutorials, especially draping. Draping is the next thing I want to tackle, and she has a lot of videos on how she drapes her dresses. And she recently did a video on creating her prom dress, her dream prom dress that she wanted when she was in high school, but wasn't great at sewing. And she finally got around. She pulled out an old sketch of her prom dress that she really wanted to wear for her prom. Never got around to sewing it, but there's a video where she actually makes the dress, and it's awesome. So check out Redesign Your Clothes with Daniela Tabois. I'm so bad at pronouncing names, forgive me. And another one is Bernadette Banner, and this is in the same vein as historical costuming. This girl blows my mind. She literally dresses in Edwardian attire in her daily life, which I really want to do at some point, just like be able to walk out in Edwardian fashion. With a modern twist, if that makes any sense. I'm getting there, guys. But she is a total inspiration to me. She drafts her own patterns. She recreates historical pieces. And the kicker is she does all of this by hand. She sews all of her garments by hand, which, what is her life? I have no idea, but it's amazing. And she does it, she tries to be true to the historical technique as well. So, you know, she recreated this medieval gown, really, really beautiful, and she sewed everything by hand using dyed linen thread, even traced out her patterns using a quill and ink. Yeah, need I say more? Need I say more? And she's also very informative as well. She has videos talking on corsets, the history of corsets, and how we have this idea that corsets are terrible, that they're constricting and women fainted, and that's not the case at all. There's so much more to it, where it's like it was only a very select few that were tight corseting corsets and, you know, just going for that super wasp waist, and that was not the case. So if you are interested in learning about like more detail about corsetry, definitely check out her YouTube channel there. And the other one is, let me see, in the same vein as Bernadette Banner, Angela Clayton. She is also recreates beautiful Victorian dress era reproductions, and just total inspiration to watch. She also designs some patterns for one of the big 5 companies, and you know, I think she's like in her early 20s. Yeah, what am I doing with my life? Anyway, so yeah, she's really fun to watch. And then Emily actually recommended this one to me, The Fold Line. Thefoldline.com is pretty much the closest thing you'll find to Ravelry when it comes to sewing. Then again, the website does have a lot of issues, but it is a database of sewing patterns, and it keeps you up to date with all the newest patterns that are coming out every month. And they also have a podcast, so it's really fun to watch. The host covers Sew the Trend, has a themed podcast every month called Sew the Trends, where she goes around to all the streets on High Street, and that's in London, where all the major clothing shops are. You have Zara, H&M, and everything. She goes to all those shops and investigates like what's hip right now, and then she comes back to her studio and records a podcast and lets you know all the sewing patterns that you can knit to kind of sewing patterns that you can sew to replicate all these trendy styles that are out there at the moment, which is really, really fun. And then she also just recaps the top, her favorite new patterns that have come out every month. So really, really fun stuff. I hope you guys check those out and enjoy them. But yeah, I am gonna end things there. Thank you as always for hanging out with me this week. I hope to see you guys next week. And until then, happy knitting, happy sewing, happy making, and I'll see you next time. Oh, and again, I post an episode every Friday. So if you did like this episode and want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe below. And I will see you next time. Happy knitting, happy sewing, happy making, as I've said a million times. Bye! Why are you so fluffy? How'd you get to be so fluffy? How did you get to be so fluffy? You're the sweetest. You're the sweetest.